What's up? It's Josh, aka Mondo Cozmo, and it's here. What is it? Hear this, hear everything, hear whatever you can right now, live through the internet. Um, Thank you for joining us for here at home. First of all, you look good, man. You look sharp. You got a tie on in quarantine. I'm impressed.
I had
Um,
to do this lady's getting married on Sunday, and she asked me to record a video for her and her husband. I was like, yes. And that was 10 minutes ago.
and you
So
dressed up for it.
I kept the tie on for you.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. In
What?
Los Angeles, healthy. Haven't left the house, only to go grocery shopping, I guess.
Yeah, you were out of town for a while, weren't you? Holed up somewhere in the hills.
Yeah, I was up in a town called Twin Peaks, which is outside of Lake Arrowhead, about an hour and a half away from here. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get out of there for quarantine purposes at the beginning, and then sort of get bored and come home? How did it work out for you?
Yeah, I got home from tour. Our tour got canceled in March. So we got home about the second week in March. And then yeah, I got the wife and we got out of town because I was pretty freaked out. Um, I was also worried because I was back east and I didn't know what my situation was, so I just wanted to do the best thing that I could, which was leave. And then we've been up there for 2 months. It's been really nice, actually. And then just this past week, we released a new song called Upside Down, and it's just kind of really doing well at radio. So I had to come back down to do a bunch of shit, which is fucking great.
The title is obviously perfect for the moment. You couldn't have known that, could you, unless you had like some crystal ball like 6 months ago?
Mate, I mean, yeah, the record's called New Medicine and the lead single's called Upside Down. Where I'm like, I don't fucking know. It's my fault, apparently.
Yeah, we're going to blame it on you, obviously. So let me ask you this. I mean, I've been doing my radio show from home now for, I think, 7 weeks,
Okay.
something like that. And interestingly enough, I was in Philly, your hometown.
Yeah.
Um, I think around the 8th through the 10th of March, I went to see my kids for their birthday. And right then, from
Yeah.
traveling at that time, I was like, do I really want to be? And it really hadn't come down. So I made the choice to go. But making that trip, making that journey, and especially on the way back, which was like March 10th or something, I was like, oh, this is going to get really heavy. I mean,
Yeah.
it felt that way traveling at the time. Did you have the same vibe?
That was right when we were like, we have to get out of here, because every day, Trump was coming on and talking, and we're watching. And it was a weird time because all the information that we were getting was either wrong or right, but we didn't know. And they were talking about shutting down all airfare or airlines and stuff, and we were like, oh man, I'm gonna be stuck at my dad's house for 2 months. I gotta get
Well, and you've got a bird who you live with as well, and we'd much rather be with your missus, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we were planning. I sent the band home mid-tour once everything started canceling, and I was going to keep on doing acoustic. And I talked to the wife, and I just felt like the biggest jerk because I'm like trying to make this work. Meanwhile, she's at home. She has no idea what's going on. It was really weird. It was really like scary. And man, I'm glad we got back. But yeah, my tour manager and I were looking into driving back from Philly because we're like, I don't know if these flights are gonna happen.
What did you guys do for 2 months up in the woods?
Well, my wife, who is an artist named Ao, who you've been really sweet and played some of her amazing music. We both have our own little studios, so we set up in two different rooms and we just record music, and it's pretty great. But after the first 2 weeks, you're like, this is awesome. We're just it was snowing up there at the time. We're
We're just
recording.
hanging out, just
Yeah,
me and my wife,
watching
and
Netflix every night, and then
right.
after a while, you're like, this is weird, and when you hit a stumbling block and you don't write anything for a couple of days, it's like, what else do you do? I don't know. I like to stay busy, and I have a regimen that I do. Like, I wake up, I do the same thing every day. I write from this time to that time. I record from this time to that time. And So that kind of keeps me sane, I think.
It's interesting. I want to talk about the record, obviously, and the recording process, because I know you sort of started and stopped and started again, right? But before we jump into that, I'm interested to just sort of dive into you talking about your process of, I get up, I do this, I record, I track, or whatever it is you do. You have that, so that it's like a job, right? You treat it's a job that you have as a musician and a songwriter.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get into to figure out that regimen, but it's like I really think songwriting is a muscle for me. Like I have to do, even when it's terrible, like I have to put in the time because you never know when something just might click and it's like, oh shit, okay, here we go. Now we got this, you know? So it's like, even if you have a terrible day, as I feel like as long as you put in your time and you're trying, I think it'll lead to more stuff. So that's just how I work. And I write in the morning. That's when my lyrics happen. My brain is firing. Anything after, I don't really record or write after like 6 or 7 p.m. A lot of that has to do with the neighbors too. I don't want to be bugging them with the screaming into a microphone and stuff. So,
What do you do if you get up to write and nothing comes?
uh, geez, if I have so many tunes that I have working on, if something isn't working, I switch and I go find something that is working or something, be like, all right, I'm not writing anything good today. I can at least go in and make these drums sound better on this song, you know? So I just, you just gotta, for me, I just have to put in the time, you know, my basis of happiness on a daily basis is if I am working on a song that I'm excited about. So, I'm obsessed. I really am. I feel for the people in my life because it's all I do. It's all I think about. And I feel like that's what I'm here for. So I just, I attack it.
Do you have a room? Do you have a studio? Do you have a space that you get into? And if you do, uh, is it easy for you to like get up, make a cup of coffee, and then go into a room to work? I mean, I do that now with the radio show. I mean, I'm in my kids' room. My kids live in Philly, but this is effectively essentially the spare room, and it's now where I do my radio show from. But are you able to do that? Is that easy for you to like close the door, leave your wife doing something else, and just sort of put yourself in that place?
Yeah, mornings are my favorite because I get up, I have a cup of coffee, and I just come into this room here. It's just like I put up a little bit of soundproofing and stuff. It's just a guest bedroom. But yeah, I need a room because for writing, for me, like recording, like if I were to go into a proper studio and record, I think I would just make like rock and roll music, you know, because that's just where I come from. Not that that's a bad thing, but I feel like my as a writer, I feel the stuff that is better is when I am like left on my own and I'm trying to, make a song like I'll spend 6 hours trying to make my dog's bark into a cool sample. And it's like, I can't go into an expensive studio and do that, because it's
It
just like,
cost you $1,000 to get that.
yeah. So I, I have recorded at amazing studios, I've seen you at the Village. I've worked with like, some amazing producers and stuff. But I feel like for me as a songwriter and producing my own stuff, I'm best left on my own with no like overhead, you know.
One of my favorite artists of the last, well, forever really, is Nick Cave.
Oh,
And I had the good fortune to I met him years ago in Athens, Greece. So that's another story with the Birthday Party, a band that he was in 1982. But I interviewed him probably a dozen years or so ago. And he told me that he rents an office. He lives in London
so-
and he actually rents an office space. That's how regimented he is.
oh, I love
And
that.
I mean, you wouldn't think it, right? You don't really know what people's process is until you have a conversation with them. And his thing was like, no, I need to go to the office to work, which I found amazing. But let's talk about this record, obviously. How many songs made it onto the final album?
We cut about 23 and we're putting 10 on the record. Um, we've already released a couple of the songs leading up to it, which I kind of love doing because it gives each song like its own, like I loved releasing Black Cadillac and it had a moment to kind of live. Um, Whereas if you just release the record, it might get buried in there. So it's 10 songs. It's a hell of a record. It moves really nice. We spent a lot of time figuring out what songs would work great going into the next song. And I was really, the running order is like an important thing to me now. So I'm really stinking proud of it, man. It's a good one.
So you selected 10 songs at the end of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you sort of started and stopped and started again, and you recorded in a few different places. Where were the tracks that made it onto the album recorded? Were they recorded at home? Were they recorded in a bunch of different places?
All the songs that made the record were recorded in this room right here. And then the only thing I can't record here is drums. So I recorded those at a studio in Boyle Heights, California called Palomino Sound. And it's a great little studio. The rates are great, and you can go in and he's got a great room sound. So that was fun to go in there and like, because putting the drums on for me are the last step, because I'm working off of loops and stuff like that. You know, just even sometimes just a click track, the whole song's there. But then when you go in and do the drums, you're like, oh man, we got a tune. You know, it's like, it's a great feeling to see the song come to life. It's really rewarding.
You talked about sequencing, which I think is an art, personally. If you're going to try and take somebody on a journey, if you want them to listen to the whole record, right? You really have to think about how one song starts and how it, butts up against the one before it that finished, and, all the way through.
Yeah.
Is that a long process for you?
It was. We've been working on like what songs are going to make the record, and because there were a lot. And there's one song on the record called It Fills the Room, and it's pretty much just a spoken word thing. And it's an apology to my wife after I had this incident where I punched a glass door, and the song is just an apology to her. And it was really personal. And I played it for a couple friends, and some of them were like, oh my God, this is wow. And some of them were like, I feel uneasy listening to this because it's really personal. So, but we felt like it was a good idea to put it on there because it kind of tells the story of how New Medicine came to be, and like the trials that went through to get this record done. And I'm really glad we put it on there.
So give me a nutshell version of that, because I saw you, I think right before Christmas, you came and played our Christmas party for
Right.
88.5, which was fantastic, at the Mr. Music Head gallery down there on Sunset.
Yeah.
And you told me a little bit of the story, and I've seen a couple of interviews with you recently where you go through it, and I don't want to dwell on it, but clearly there was a moment when you were in a studio when you lost your rag. Something just bothered you to such an extent that you
heard that before. That's
lost your rag. It's an English thing. I could say lost your shit, but lost your rag. And you punched through a glass door. Is that right?
Yeah. So the band, once the first record kind of started going well at radio, we spent about a year straight on tour, and I've been doing this. You were sweet enough to be the first person to ever play me on the radio back in whatever year that was. And I've been doing it a long time, and nobody's really ever paid attention to me. So it was the first time where people were like, wanted to hear the songs, wanted to hear what I had to say. I was doing quality interviews. I was getting up and doing the morning shows. I was doing the meet and greets.
You were busy.
I was hugging everybody I could, man. I was just like, this is it. I don't want to landscape ever again.
Yeah.
And
I hear that.
So after a year, I was just fried, man. It was a year of like being on, and it drained me pretty hard.
Constant travel as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it was intense, and I wouldn't have changed a thing. I loved it, but it got to be the point where I was about to go in and start working on the new record. And I was kind of stressed because I wasn't really writing anything I was psyched about. And we had one last thing to do, and it was a video shoot for the label. The live show had gotten to a point where it was very good, and they wanted to record it with an audience there and put it out. And I thought it was a cool idea. I liked it. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it because I was just like, this isn't, you're eating up my budget, and I'm not sure if this is the best use of it. So I wasn't psyched about it. I had a lot of notes, you know, I wanted to, like, every time I sent a note, it got turned down because they were recording and the video, and it wasn't possible. And it just got out of my control. And then suddenly there I was in this room where they're cranking the heat and the fire marshal's coming in, and there's all these people there that the college reps brought in, just the most attractive people you've ever seen, not my crowd. You know, but God bless them. These are like just beautiful,
Careful.
beautiful people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who are you? Like, what? You don't like me? And I just freaking lost it. And I walked off the stage, and I walked into the console room where all the expensive stuff is. The band's there, the band's girlfriends are there, management, label. And I just start screaming. I never lose my shit. And I lost it. And I screamed, anybody that's not in the band, get out of the room. And I saw like a rush of like 15 people headed to the door. And I got so mad at that I turned, and I thought I was punching like one of those foam walls, you know, that they have in studio. And it wasn't, it was a glass door, and I just ruined my hand. And it led to this situation where I was, you know, I was in the emergency room till 4 a.m. They're putting my hand back together. And suddenly I had to write a record, and I had a huge cast on, and they're like, you're not going to feel it in your hand for 2 years. And I was like, oh my God. And but Nic, it just led to me having to come to terms with, the main thing was learning how to say no to things, and knowing that I had, you know, and talking to my managers and the band, and just being like, look, you have obviously a point that you can't go past, and we have to respect that. Because up till then I was a greyhound. I was just going. And it was a great learning experience, because now we say no to things if it's too much, you know, and it's okay, you know.
So a couple of questions that come out of that. First of all, I'm presuming you parted company with the record label.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously had to start things in a different way.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that song, which was essentially an apology. What was the greatest lesson you learned from that moment? I mean, I know you said, you know, learning how to say no, but deeper than that, for you to be able to write a song about it, clearly, you know, that was a big shift inside you personally and as an artist. Can you describe exactly what you sort of came out of it with?
Yeah, it's a great question. So once the hand thing happened, I was in a cast, and I just started writing. I wrote Black Cadillac, I wrote Come On, I wrote Generator, like some pretty important songs for me. And I was like, they put me on medication after that, just antibiotics, because the hand was all torn up. And I'm writing at a clip that I've never seen before, and at a quality that I was like, whoa, what is going on? I went to the doctor and I said, Doc, I need more of these pills, because I am writing like Jimi Hendrix on acid right now. I'm just crushing.
And this was just antibiotics.
It was just antibiotics.
They were really good antibiotics.
But the sweet doctor, he goes, let me ask you, Josh. He's like, do you think it's these antibiotics that have no bearing on what's happening in your life, or do you think it's the fact that you actually like stood up and handled a situation, and you weren't passive aggressive about it, and you literally punched the wall? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you're right. Like, I had to go through that. Like, I had to, because I was being run into the ground, you know, and I had to stick up for myself, and that was the worst way to do it, but it had to happen, you know?
So just a whole sea change in attitude about how you're dealing with your life as a musician in the music industry, I guess.
Everybody's been much nicer since I punched my class.
Everybody gets out of the way. There's nowhere near as many people in the room anymore. I don't know what happened. So it's been great talking to you. Let me just finish up by asking, how do you feel at this moment, getting ready to release an album into a world that's changed? The old way of doing business, which until, you know, up now, you know, recently was release an album and go tour the hell out of it for a year.
Yeah.
You can't do that right now.
No.
So How do you feel putting an album out at this time? And I'm presuming, because you're a smart guy, you're looking at different ways to get the word out. I think it comes out in June, right? June 7th or something like
June
that?
12th it comes out, Nick.
June
Yeah.
12th, New Medicine. How do you feel about this moment in time, putting a record out, but not being able to support it in the traditional way?
God, yeah, it is. Every day is a learning experience with this shit, because it's like, it's hard, man. Like my life is on the road, so it's like to not be able to have that available is so odd. Um, we're trying to, I read articles about how labels are trying to figure this out, and the main thing is, let's be creative. There is an aspect to that. I am getting sick of seeing people do their live shows from their bedroom and stuff. So like, I don't know. I wish the technology was kind of there where like the band and I could be in the same room and record and do it live. I don't know how to do that. There's a lot of things that are being asked of artists right now who are dumb. Like I don't know how to do. I couldn't even get on
Sure.
Zoom with you, brother.
That was, I think that was me.
Well, but I mean, we're being asked to do a ton of stuff, and it's like, I don't know how to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. I play guitar, So I don't know. There was a lot of talk of pushing the record back, but at the end of the day, we're like, no. There's gonna be so much music coming out. Like, this is the first time ever where no bands are touring. Like, everybody is home recording their next masterpiece.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's just get this out and stick and move, like I record a lot. I'm probably halfway through the next record, so it's like, let's just get this out. This needs to come out now. There's a reason that this is meant to be. So we're going to choose to follow fate with that one.
Well, we can't wait to hear it. Obviously, this is something that's going to live on, on the interwebs forever. So I hope you're happy with everything you said. But we're recording this, I think, on May, I don't know what day it is. What is it, May 13th or something? The album is coming out on June 15th, you said. So
June 12th.
June 12th.
Yeah.
Oh, I have that written down here. But I'm looking forward to hearing it. By the time other people see this, they probably already heard it. Let's hope that the live thing comes back together in some way, shape, or form, in the not too distant future. But I got a feeling we're going to be sitting at home for a little while. Yeah.
And I'm okay with it, man. I was, I don't, obviously this is in the future, but they were talking about extending this for a little bit longer. And I was like, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't want to get sick. I don't want my family to get sick. So it's like, we've come this far. I'm fine,
Yeah. Believe in science.
Yeah. Fact.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I hope to see you in person sometime soon, buddy.
I'm going to hug you. So.
Okay. It's great talking to you, man. Thanks so much.
Love you, Nick.
All right.